From business to entertainment, I sit down with folks who have reached their own level of success to discuss their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, and the challenges they faced along the way. You're listening to The Jordan James Show. Tim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Man, actor, singer, writer, director, producer, composer, former child star. Holy, is there a title that you don't have, man?
Not so much in this business.
Man of many, many hats and talents as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So out of all of those titles, what would you say is your favorite? Do you have a favorite thing to do?
I do. It's acting. Yeah.
Really?
It's definitely acting.
So what's your secret to accomplishing so much at such a young age?
You have to have really supportive parents, and you have to have a support system, and you have to be willing to sort of give up a normal childhood. But I didn't really want that. I loved doing what I did as a child. I loved going to rehearsals and staying out till midnight and stuff like that. And I loved it. I was never forced into it at all.
You started in theater at the age of 5, right?
5, yeah.
Wow. So take us back a little bit. I usually like starting off these interviews with your origin story. So take us back to that time, even before that, if you can. Tell us where you're from and how you got started in the industry.
Yeah, of course. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I still live in Brooklyn, New York, actually. And my mother was very theatrical, and she loved music, and she made me watch, not made me, but she put on musicals, and I used to love watching them on TV. And then every Saturday night during the summer, she would take me to an outdoor classical concert at the local college near our house. I loved it so much. I would take like a blade of grass and pretend to conduct and everything. I just absolutely loved it. And one Saturday night, it was rained out, and there was a play going on indoors at the college. And my mom said, well, do you want to go see the play that's inside? Because I was really upset the concert was canceled. I said, yes, I don't want to go home. I'll see a play. And I was 4. I was 4 years old, by the way. And the play was On Golden Pond. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with On Golden Pond, but it's about 2 senior citizens who go into retirement. And it was completely inappropriate for a 4-year-old. But I was sitting there completely in awe. I remember it rained on stage at one point, and I was just, what's happening? This is so magical. What are these people doing? I have to be up there. I have to be up there. And my mom said, oh no, this is going to be a thing now. And by the time I was 5, I was auditioning for plays. And I got my first play. My first play I auditioned for was A Christmas Carol, the role of Tiny Tim, which is actually, I'm named after Tiny Tim. And I did not get that part. So my very first audition was a rejection. So got used to that. But my second part I auditioned for was a production of The Music Man. And I got the part of Winthrop, Peru. And that changed everything for me.
Yeah, because even as a child, you were a part of so many productions. Like there's a long list of theatrical credits to your name. Oliver, Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, Edmund. Oh,
yeah,
and,
Edmund.
And just the list goes on and on. So tell me a little bit about growing up in the theater. What was that like for you?
The best. It was the best life. I loved it so much. I really did. You grow up really fast, and you learn a lot of things that you wouldn't normally learn as a child. I was partying with, not partying, but I was going to parties and stuff with adults. And it was just, to me, that was normal. I just loved it. I loved it. And I especially loved it when I did plays that other kids were in. So I made a lot of really good friends, and I would recommend it. I loved growing up in the theater. It's such a great life.
That sounds awesome. So what was your favorite musical, or what is your favorite musical, just to watch even?
Into the Woods, easy. That was the first musical I ever saw on Broadway when I was 4 or 5. I think I was 5, actually. Right. And that was the first musical I ever saw on Broadway. The original productions, which is really dating me. It was like 1989, I think. Yeah. And so it's always been my favorite show.
And you had the opportunity to be in that show as well at one point,
I was in it twice. Yeah, I did it in high school, and I also did it in college. And it was one of my favorite roles I ever played. It was the baker.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I'm definitely a Sound of Music guy. My favorite. R.I.P. Chris
I did the Sound of Music. I played Kurt.
No way.
I did. I loved it.
That's amazing.
It was one of my, I think I was 7 when I did that. That was one of my first.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, what drew you to the performing arts altogether? Do you have any influences there?
I would say watching concerts and watching Into the Woods. And then Into the Woods was put on PBS. There's like, now you can buy the DVD of it if you want. And just watching that over and over again. And my idol, Miss Bernadette Peters.
Yeah.
She is the one I still to this day want to work with. And she drew me in. She really drew me in.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing. Actually, I saw a quote or an interview that you did where you quoted Meryl Streep, who I agree is the best living actress of all time.
Yes, she is.
Who says that she never stops learning her craft.
Yes.
So why do you think it's so important for to continue to learn? And do you have any tips for being humble and kind of just keeping your mind open to anything and everything?
Well, every experience that you're going to do is different. You never really know 100% what's gonna work when you get to set, or when you start rehearsal. You have to keep on going to classes. You have to keep on studying and learning your craft. You really do, because if you think you're good enough or better than everyone else, I'm sorry, but you're not. There's always going to be people who are better or different than you.
Right.
I think it's just so important to always keep on learning and keep your brain fresh and don't get rusty. Because there's a lot of times where you're not working because this business is very, very hard. You could sit back and do nothing, or you could keep your brain alive and keep on studying your craft. So if Meryl Streep says she's never done learning, the rest of us have no excuse. I'm sorry.
Totally right there. So just kind of getting back to your time as a child star, talk to us a little bit about the things that you might have been exposed to at a young age, or that most kids maybe are not.
Well, I could just very easily say that I was at a party when I was 6 or 7 years old with a transvestite and did not know anything about that. And I said to my mom, is this a man or a woman? And she had to explain it to me. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, it's just
part of life now.
It was just part of life. And I just got it. And it didn't bother me at all. And none of homosexuality, none of it bothered me growing up. And it was just things that I went to Catholic school during the day, and at night I was partying with transvestites. It was just my life. And to me, it was completely normal. And I think that's part of why I'm just so accepting of everyone right now. At this age, you just be you. You have to be yourself. And I think I learned that being yourself is the most important thing at a very young age, a lot earlier than my peers at Catholic school, who didn't understand I call it my double life. They didn't understand my double life. For Oliver, I had to dye my hair blonde. For the Music Man, I had to dye my hair red, and I would come to school with like a different color, and they didn't understand it, and they made fun of me, and they just had no idea what was going on. But to me, it was completely normal. So just things like that I was exposed to at a very early age that I loved. It just shaped me into the adult I am today.
Absolutely. I love that. Your double life. You're basically the original Hannah Montana.
Yeah. Totally. And I even had the hair color change.
Yeah. So do you happen to have a favorite role or a favorite production that you were a part of as a youth?
As a child, it probably was Oliver, playing Oliver and Oliver. Very, very special. The first time I ever performed on stage when I was 5 was actually a talent show. And I sang Where Is Love from Oliver. And then when I was, and the Music Man was right after that. But so I loved Oliver. I had the the LP of Oliver, the soundtrack from the movie. And I watched the movie all the time. And I just wanted to play him so bad. And when I was 11, I finally got to play him. So that was like a little dream come true for me at a young age. So I would say as a youth, it was definitely Oliver.
Wow. So just kind of continuing on, in your life as a child star, you were on Nickelodeon's The Big Help. You had a role in the Kevin Klein movie, The Emperor's Club. And you were also in the TV series Ed with Tom Cavanaugh, Justin Long. You had a role in Sopranos, among many others. So what kind of pressure did you feel as a child star growing up in the spotlight?
It was so weird that I feel more pressure as an adult than I did as a kid. When you're a kid, you kind of just do your thing and you don't worry about things, don't bother you as much.
Right.
Auditions don't bother me as much when I was a kid. For example, The Sopranos, I very nearly got the role of AJ and it didn't
Yeah.
work. It didn't work out. And it didn't bother me. It bothers me now when I think about it. It's so weird. I'm 36 now
Mm.
and I think about it. I'm like, oh, that could have changed my life. But when it happened, I didn't really care so much. I was like, well, it is. It is what it is. You're a kid,
Yeah.
life hasn't, you're still naive. Life hasn't brought you down yet. So I didn't
Yeah.
really feel that much pressure. Luckily, I was able to be on The Sopranos. They liked me enough and they gave me another part, a very small part, but another part. And so I got to be on set. I didn't feel much pressure. I loved being on set. My first film I did was a movie called Deconstructing Harry, and the director was Woody Allen. And that was a big deal for a 12-year-old being on
Wow.
set with Woody Allen and Robin Williams, and people like Robin Williams was in that film. And it was just, wow, these are, I learned at 12, these are just people, these are amazingly talented people who I look up to, but they are just people. And I, I didn't really feel much pressure because you're welcomed into the community like one you're on the you're like they're like become your peers, and
Yeah.
so I really didn't feel much pressure doing it. I'm more nervous now than I was as a kid, much more nervous.
Yeah. So you mentioned almost getting the role of AJ in The Sopranos. So let's talk a little bit about opportunities in the entertainment industry. Landing big roles and booking big opportunities are it's obviously great, but sometimes things don't always work out and deals often fall through. Sometimes casting goes a different direction. Tell me a little bit about that experience for you and how did you, or well, what did you take away from that?
Well, most of the time it doesn't go your way, to be perfectly honest with you. You get a lot more no's in this business than you get yeses. But I will
Mm,
say all those no's make the one yes so much better. When you get
mm,
that yes, oh my goodness, you just feel so amazing that you finally got that yes. Um, I will say I learned to have a tougher skin from all the rejection. And since I started so young, by now my skin is super thick things kind of roll off my back now. You have to learn from an early age that it's not necessarily about you and it's not about your talent.
mm,
It's there's so many things that go into casting because now I've been on the other side of the table and I get it. And there have been people who have come in who have been amazing, but weren't quite right for that role for whatever little tiny reason. And it
right.
has nothing to do with their talent or like the or your looks or anything like that. Just don't think like that. Don't think like that. There's so many things that go into casting that you can't get discouraged every time you hear a rejection. And I learned that early on. And I'm okay with rejection. I really am because I've learned, okay, I didn't, as long as you do your best, as long as you walk in that room and you do your very best and you feel good about what you did,
Right.
it's a great learning experience. Every time you audition, it's like a little performance. So you learn every time. And maybe you're not right for this role, but you're right for something down the line that casting director. So I didn't get AJ, but they called me in for another part later on. So you never know what's going to happen. You just have to get a tough skin and no, it's not necessarily about what you did in the room, as long as you feel good about
Right. Wow. How inspirational. Thank you, man.
it. Thank you.
So just going back a little bit, we all know about the horror stories of child stars and the struggles that some of them face and maybe not able to break free of that. But you dodged that bullet. Talk to us a little bit about how that happened and how you were able to kind of stay on the straight and narrow path.
Well, luckily, I never got to the level of child stardom that like paparazzi were following me around. So that was good. I feel like
Mm,
I didn't grow up in that type of world. I grew up in the theater mainly, which doesn't have that type of fandom, if you will. So I feel like I grew up learning my craft and studying it more than becoming a star, if you will. So I kept my head on learning and also going to school. And I wanted to go to college. And I think that's really important. And, I took a break from professional work when I went to college for 4 years and just did my productions in college. That's all I wanted to do. Whatever my college was doing, I didn't want to audition outside. I wanted to stay at my college for 4 years and learn. And then after college, I was going to go off and go back to the professional world. So I think that's really important. School kept my head on straight and not having, paparazzi following me around at such an early age. I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad for child stars when they have to grow up in such a bright limelight. Luckily, my limelight wasn't so bright.
So yeah, because you graduated from Five Town College in a what was it, Bachelor of Fine Arts?
Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting, a very small college, and it was great because my program was really small, and I got to play a lot of roles that I wouldn't be playing for many, many more years. And I feel like I got to play leading man roles. I got to play character roles. I got to do Chekhov. I got to do Cole Porter. It's just like,
oh wow,
Sondheim. I got to do a little bit of everything. Christopher Durang, and I loved it. And I got to just do a little bit of everything. I got to take directing classes, screenwriting classes, and really stage management classes, and really just shape myself as a complete performer. And I love that experience. And I think it's important for everyone. I mean, college isn't for everyone, but for me, it was a good experience.
Yeah. What were some lessons that you learned early on? Some tough lessons.
Early on. If you want to have a normal, quote unquote, normal life, it's not really going to happen for you. You have to give up a lot. You have to give up time with friends. You have to give up holidays with family sometimes. You have to give up things like that if you really, really want this business. You also have to learn that you're going to hear no a lot more than you would if you were just pursuing a quote unquote normal career. So you just have to give up things. You have to give up some things, but you get a lot in return. So you have to weigh the pros and cons before you decide to jump with both feet into this.
Definitely. And what would you say is the biggest sacrifice you've ever had to make for your career, for a job?
Just having a normal childhood. Yeah. Just going out and riding bikes with friends and birthday parties and things like that. That was probably the biggest sacrifice I had to give up.
Being in college myself right now, we're learning the power of networking and how important it is to kind of make those connections. What connections did you make early on in your career that became beneficial for you later on?
Well, you meet so many people in theater. You meet so many directors. There's a director who I worked with who directed me in a play when I was 7, and then again in my 20s. So people, it's actually a huge industry, but yet kind of everybody knows each other. It's very weird. Everyone's sort of connected. There's like a 6 degrees thing. So you definitely meet a lot of people who you're gonna work with again. And you don't even know that, but you're gonna work with people more than once. And there's gonna be people that you see down the line. So it's very important to always be kind to everybody, because you never know what that person's gonna become. Like, let's say there's some assistant on a production and you want to be a big diva. You never know, that assistant might become your director one day, or it might become a producer one day. So be nice to everybody and don't be a big diva.
Good words of wisdom there, my friend. I'll remember that one for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you just can't be a diva. You can't. It's so important to treat everyone with respect.
Absolutely. Now, in 2004, you appeared in a TV movie called Strip Search alongside Austin Pendleton, Tom Grary, Glenn Close.
Yes. But then Pendleton played my teacher.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. What an opportunity. So then after that, is that when you took your break from acting and to complete college, or what happened after that?
2004. That sounds about right. Yeah. I graduated high school in 2000, early 2000. Yeah. I took a break for a few years there and just concentrated on college.
So just moving on a little bit. So on top of your acting, you're also a successful writer and director, having co-wrote with your writing partner, Matthew Martin.
We wrote a musical, yes.
As well as directed the hit musical Ghostlight.
Oh, that was a wonderful experience.
Multiple renditions. And of course, I got to mention, as a 90s kid, working with Annalisa Vanderpool from That's So Raven.
Annalisa, actually, after Ghostlight, we moved in together for about 6 months and we were roommates.
Yeah. And then you guys write together as well after that?
We wrote a 2-person show together called About Last Night that we were going to perform and never actually got to do.
but that turned into something else, I believe, didn't it?
You did. Wow. You know, you did your research. About Last Night was something Annalisa and I were going to do together, a 2-person show. And then she got a film she got a film and she had to go back to LA. And I was left with this date at 54 Below, which is a wonderful club in Manhattan. That's where we were going to do it. And so I decided to write a solo show. I hadn't performed in a while because I was writing Ghostlight and I really missed performing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a solo show. And so I called it Alone with Plenty of Help. And so it was a solo show about my life. And I had guest stars come in to play various characters in my life. Yeah. And that show turned into Wunderkind, which I then took on tour.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And speaking of guest stars, Tony Award winning Beth Level, I believe.
Yeah, she did my show many times.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And you also had Jenna Lee Green on that, who also
she's one of my best friends. Yes.
Wow. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that experience and what was that play like for you? Working especially in that area too, because wasn't that had some historical value to it as well? That
54 Below.
Yeah.
54 Below is an amazing venue. It's the basement of Studio 54 where like Liza Minnelli and Elizabeth Taylor and all these people used to hang out. If you're ever in New York and once everything opens up again, absolutely check out 54 Below. It's so cool. It's a really, really cool venue. And that's where I started that show. And it was originally called Alone, Plenty of Help, turned into Wunderkind. Jenna was in actually every incarnation of that show. And I learned a lot, because I spoke about everything in that show. I didn't hold back at all. I did not hold back at all. It was very, very personal. And that was scary. That was like the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Put yourself on stage in front of your friends and family and strangers. It's very scary to just be in such an open book. In fact, one time, because I always changed it up a little bit every time I did it. And one time I actually took my journal and I read my journal on stage in front of people. And I said, you know what? I want to get rid of that. It was an X I was talking about. And I wanted to get this X out of my head. And I said, you know what? I'm going to read the journal on stage and I'm going to rip it up and throw the pages on stage. I actually did. I took my journal and I read excerpts of my journal to this audience who knows who was out there, and I ripped the pages up on stage, and it was very cathartic, and it was a wonderful experience. And then I sang this song called Always Starting Over from If Then, and it was just so, like I said, cathartic. And that's the whole experience of doing Wunderkind was cathartic, and I learned a lot about myself in the process.
How did you muster the courage to be able to be so vulnerable in that production?
I don't know.
It came from somewhere.
I don't know. I found it somewhere. I didn't think I could ever do it. And then you just get on stage and the nerves go away and you say, I want to tell this story. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Wow.
I wanted to perform again. And I said, let me do it. Let me just go full out.
Yeah. So now just kind of moving in a little bit more to success overall, because you've had so many different levels of success in multiple industries, theater, film, behind the camera as well. How do you celebrate success when you achieve it?
I take a long nap. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I really don't know how I celebrate. I call family and friends and I tell them about it. I really don't know. I have a drink and think about the journey and just like take it in. I really just like sit there and I try really hard to take it in. And sometimes you feel like you have imposter syndrome, which is very interesting, but you just have to, it just takes me a while to accept things. Every time I win an award or something, it takes me a while to accept it. And then I'll just look at it and be like, okay, I've got this award. Maybe I'm doing something right. All right, let's move on to the next project.
Exactly.
That's really all I do. I just want to get better and better and just keep doing it and keep doing work I'm passionate about. I don't really revel in awards so much because they're not really that important. They're fun to get and it feels good, but it just makes me want to work harder.
Yeah. You speak about 54 Below and all these other great venues that you've had the opportunity to play at. Let's start with Lincoln Center, Madison Square Garden, Carnegie Hall.
Oh yeah. I play violin. I played violin.
Yeah. And that was when you were 12, right?
I was 12 years old. I was in the Brooklyn Borough-wide Orchestra, and we played a whole set at Carnegie Hall, and it was pretty amazing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that experience. What were you feeling in that moment? And also at Madison Square Garden, because you know what they say, when you get to Madison Square Garden, you've made it.
I sang a few songs at Madison Square Garden with a group from high school. It was pretty cool. Pretty scary, but and I had laryngitis that day. So, wow. But like the weirdest thing happens when you go on stage. If you're feeling sick or nervous, it kind of just melts away. And I was so sick that day, but for some reason, when I got on stage, it all came out. And then when I got off stage, I couldn't talk again. It's very weird.
Wow. And
being at Carnegie Hall when I was 12, just walking through those giant doors and sitting there and seeing all those balconies was.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be like I said, I think I'd be more nervous now than I was then.
Right. So how do you kind of keep yourself together and push on, I guess, especially, I mean, even maybe not just in those specific performances, but in life in general, when you're in your darkest times, you still have a job to do. And how do you kind of push on and continue doing what you're supposed to do?
I think about the success that I've had, and I try to grow on it. I say, listen, it happened before, and it could happen again. So what do I do to make the next project as successful or more successful than the last project? And you really have to sit down and think about it and what you want to do. And you have to pick the right projects, and you have to pick the right people to work with. And you really have to make the right decisions. And if something is not right, don't do it. And if you're not in the right mindset to work on something, don't do it. But you have to be in a peaceful mindset, a calm mindset, and just really decide what's going to move you into the next phase of your career, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. So just kind of going off that a little bit, speaking about your times as a director, what would you say are some good qualities that make a really strong director?
I got to say, I don't love directing because I don't love being in charge of everybody. I think it's a lot of pressure, but I do direct sometimes. What makes a good director is having a great stage manager to lean on, having a great cast to work with, make sure you're working with people who are kind and respectful, like I said earlier, and people that you can collaborate with. Don't be don't be a dictator about your being a director. It's a collaboration, and always take suggestions from people, and always make sure everyone is comfortable. And as long as everybody is happy and comfortable, you're going to have a really calm and good directing experience.
Right.
You have to care about your actors, and you have to have a team on that you really, really trust.
And how do you communicate and motivate everybody as a director?
It's the work. It's the words on the page. You have to, if it's good stuff, just keep on telling them, listen, this is good stuff. We're going to move so many people with this project. People are going to be changed after they watch this show. You got to motivate them like that. You got to tell them that this is going to change. Like when you see a show or you see something, it changes your life a little bit. I'm not saying that everything's going to be this monumental change, but it changes you a bit. Everything you watch, every experience that you have, watching a film, watching a play, you're changed a little bit after that. And that's a very, very, very special experience to have as a spectator. And I like to remind my actors and my crew that that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're doing that for the audience. And we're changing, we're just hopefully, even if one person is really, really moved by this, or one person decides, I want to be an actor after seeing that, like I did when I was 4 years old. That's how I motivate people and motivate myself.
And would you say that being prepared and having put the work in beforehand or study the subtext?
Oh yeah, of course. That goes without saying. I mean, just like tell them to put the work in, and just don't just read your lines, read the whole play.
Yeah.
Study the subtext. Look into your scene partner's eyes. Don't look all over the place. That's so important to have eye contact. Yeah, things like that are just so helpful. So helpful
Yeah.
for me as an actor and when I'm directing as well.
And what would you say are some of your personal values, Tim?
Personal values, I think, is like I said before, just have respect for everybody and just don't be a bad person. I mean, I cannot stand arrogance. I can't stand arrogance. It's such a pet peeve of mine when somebody walks in the
Mm.
room and thinks that they're better than everybody else or starts bragging about credits that they've done or show, oh, I worked with this person and that person. I don't care. Like, just like, it's
Mm-hmm.
great that you have, but why are you telling me and why are you bragging about it? Just be a good person. Treat me with respect. I'll treat you with respect, and we're going to have a great relationship.
That actually makes me think of the one, well, not the one, obviously I've learned a lot in college, but the most important lesson that has been instilled in me is keep your mind open and always be willing to learn. And I don't think I'll ever forget that at this
Yes.
point.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even when it's expected, obviously it's expected. We've talked about this already. Rejection in Hollywood happens all the time, more than yeses.
No, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how else you've experienced that and how were you able to spin those situations into learning experiences for you?
Well, I went in for a TV show right before I filmed Yes, which was a major life change for me and a major role. And I went in for a
Mm,
TV show where I had to say one line, literally one line. And there were 30 guys in a room waiting to go in, and I was one of them. And I went in and I said the line 3 times on tape, and I didn't get the part. I left the room and I went, okay, well, I'm going to go film Yes now. And it just like, it was so weird because I didn't get a part with one line. And then I auditioned for a couple of weeks later. I auditioned for a student film with a couple of lines, which I also didn't get. And it just didn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like,
mm,
it wasn't the right part. It wasn't my time to do that, to do that certain line, or do that certain part in that TV show. And it's okay. It's totally okay. Everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different, everyone's at a different level. You can't compare yourself to the person who got the part over you or a friend who's getting more parts than you, because everyone in this business has a different journey. Your journey will work out the way it's supposed to. And that's what I truly believe. And every time I go into
mm.
an audition and don't get it, I say, okay, this project was not part of my journey, and that's fine. Yes was part of my journey. My new movie is part of my journey. But those other things I didn't get weren't meant to be. And that's how I feel about it, truly. And I know it's easier said than done, but you got to feel that way. Otherwise, you're just going to be depressed all the time.
I like that. Yeah. So basically just training your mind to think that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And after so many years, I mean, it's easier now that, I mean, it's easier after I've been in this business for over 30 years. So it just,
Yes.
I've heard no a lot, a very large amount. And like I said, it just wasn't meant to be. I wasn't meant to be AJ on The Sopranos. Okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Let's talk a little bit about the power of choices and making the right decisions because
Yes.
that can really make or break a person in any industry, and especially in terms of changing the course of your entire life. What would you say is the toughest decision that you've ever had to make?
If I wanted to be a writer or if I wanted to be an actor again,
Mm,
because I did give up acting for a couple of years to start writing Ghostlight, the musical,
right.
and I loved it. But when I sat back and watched Ghostlight on stage, I felt wonderful about it because it was my words, me and my
Mm,
friends' words, and our music. And it was a wonderful, beautiful experience and very different for me. But in the back of my mind, it was nagging at me. I wanted to be up on that stage. And my friend and I discussed it and said, well, are we writers now? Because he was an actor as well. I guess we're writers now. Like, New York knows us as writers now because I hadn't acted in a few years.
right.
And the choice to write a large role for myself and put it out there, which was Yes, the
Mm,
off Broadway version of Yes, and to actually act in it and not just write it was the toughest choice I made in my life because I decided, you know what? I still need to be an actor. I need to. I can't just like stand in the back and be a writer only. So, yeah, it was choosing to act again.
And what would you say is the best decision that you've ever had to make in terms of your career?
Choosing to act again.
Okay, so it goes segues right into that one nicely.
Yeah, I'm so much happier when I'm acting. I love writing. It was a hobby my whole life that became half of my career now, but I just love acting so much.
You almost turned down your role in the Emperor's Club because
I did.
it was between that and a play that you really wanted to do. Did you make the right decision, and how did you know that?
100% made the right decision. It was my first time working on a film set for a long, long period of time. It was a long shoot and it was every day. It was long, long hours. But I learned about the film industry. I really learned. And I learned so much from Kevin Klein, who was the smartest man I've ever met. He just knew everything. He knew everything about film and everything about theater. And getting to know him was a dream and like a master class in learning how to act for film. And I got to learn all these tricks of the camera and just things I wouldn't have gotten to normally learn if I just decided to do the play. It was also good exposure. And it was wonderful because that movie was filled with gems. It was filled with people who went on to become so famous. And I got to work with Jesse Eisenberg and Paul Dano and Emile Hirsch, and they were all like just starting out at the time. Mm-hmm. And like we were all together, like, you know, starting out. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that we were all starting out together. And now look at them, you know, it's great. So it was, and I got to know them very well. And it was definitely the right decision. Definitely.
Yeah. And actually, I think I read somewhere that Kevin Klein specifically asked for you to be put in the scene in the back of the room so that he could kind of like focus on you during his close-ups.
Is 100% true. Our first day of filming, so it was a little intimidating. It was our first day of filming. They wrapped us all, and I was in the trailer getting undressed, and the PA came running and said, "Tim, we need you back on set." I said, "Oh, okay." So I ran back on set. They set me in a desk, and there was one desk left because they were cleaning up the room, and he had to do a monologue. And he directed it right at me, and they were just filming. The camera wasn't on me; it was only on him because he was supposed to be speaking to the whole class.
Yeah,
and he just did the monologue a couple of times, looking right at me, and I was paying attention, nodding, doing what I had to do. And they wrapped him for the day, and they wrapped me for the day, and he just walked by me and said, "Thank you," and he went to his trailer. And the director came over to me, Michael Hoffman, the amazing Michael Hoffman, and he said, "Kevin asked for you because he saw that you were you were so focused on set, and he wanted somebody really focused." And that was the best compliment I could have ever heard in my life, that Kevin Klein specifically wanted me to sit there so he could do it. So there's a monologue, one of the first monologues in the movie where he's talking about the emperors, and he was saying it to me. It was my first day on set. It was crazy.
How amazing. So did you take that as a huge compliment, or were you kind of intimidated in that moment as well?
I was both. I was intimidated. and then later on in the evening, I was like, wow, that really is a huge compliment. So yeah. And then at the very, very end of the shoot, he signed the book, The Palace Thief. The movie is based on a novel called The Palace Thief. And I had a copy of the book, and he signed it for me, "To Tim, my most attentive student."
Wow. So let's go. Let's move into your more recent projects. Your film, Yes, which you wrote, produced, and starred in, won multiple awards on the festival circuit.
It did. So lucky.
Wow. What was it like bringing that? Because it started off as an off-Broadway play, right?
Yes.
So what was it like, and what was the process like to bring that to film?
Well, my original co-star off Broadway was a wonderful actor named Joe Blute. And together, it was a director had come to see the production off Broadway and pulled us aside after and said, "This would make a great film." And I never even thought about it. as a film. And then after he said that, I said, you know what? It would make a really good film. So together, Joe and I started working on like the idea for a screenplay. Unfortunately, Joe and I had a falling out. He's wonderful. I wish him no ill. He's a great, 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 great actor. So I had to move on with the project without him. And I was really depressed because I really wanted to do it with Joe. My publicist at the time said, listen, I know you're depressed because you wanted to do this film, but I know a great indie director. His name is Rob Margulies. He directed this and that, and this and that. You should, I'm going to see if I can set up a meeting with you guys. I said, okay. And Rob read the script in one day, and within 2 days, we had a meeting.
Wow.
And we sat down at a restaurant in Manhattan, and he said, I want to make this movie. And it was just the easiest thing. It was so weird because like I said, when you hear a yes for yes, it's really funny. When you hear a yes, it just knocks your socks off, and it's the most amazing feeling. And that was the best yes I had ever gotten. And 10 months later, we were making the movie.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing because, well, Rob has now become one of your frequent collaborators, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and actually, I had the pleasure of meeting Rob. I produced an interview for a different YouTube network, and when he was, he was promoting Immortal at the time.
Immortal is so good, so good. It's so
Tony
good.
Todd, yeah, what an insane cast. But yeah, so yeah, just going back to Yes, what can you tell me about the importance of the themes in that film? Because that movie is an extremely emotional roller coaster, and it's sometimes kind of hard to watch. So what can you tell me about that?
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah, especially nowadays, right? With everything that's been happening and going on in the world.
Well, I think it's important to put a mirror up to our society, and especially what's going on in the industry. People like Harvey Weinstein, etc. I think it's super important to not shy away from that. And there were some film festivals who did not accept our movie because they did not want to focus on the truth. I wanted to focus on the truth and show the darker side of this industry, because a lot of bad stuff happens, and it really does. I also really wanted to write. I love writing about the human psyche and like why people do what they do and why they think what they think, why they say what they say. And I said, this would be really cool to have two people in a room who are from completely different worlds, but at the same time, they are so similar to each other.
Yeah.
And what would happen? I'm like, what would happen? And that's how Yes was born. And I also, like I said, I wanted to hold up a mirror to society.
Definitely. And I think some of what really captivated me while I was watching that film is that, for one, it's about the opposite genders of what we're used to seeing, right? So it's how these stories do happen to guys as well, and males as well.
Yes.
And you don't really know for sure. You're kind of left with did he, didn't he? And you kind of feel for Patrick.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. The very last scene, the last like couple seconds of the film had me in tears, dude. Insane.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for that experience.
Well, that was the goal. So I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. Even almost getting there now, like, whoop.
Yeah, it's a tough film. It's a tough one. Even I get emotional, and I wrote the damn thing.
Yeah. Yes. And I've been performing it for many years.
Many years off Broadway for about, festivals and off Broadway and in Detroit for on and off for about 4 years. And then we made the movie.
Aside from that, I also had the privilege of watching you perform the title role in the ancient Greek tragedy Medea over Zoom. Thank you for the invite, by the way.
Yes. That was so much fun.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. When you came out with the blood all over you, I was like, whoa, I jumped right out of my chair for a second.
Yeah, I went for it.
What's the secret behind making an online reading work? I mean, it must have been difficult, especially without a physical audience there to feed off of, right?
It's really hard. You want to be in the same room. I wanted to be in the same room with my Jason and Medea and Jason. I wanted to be in the same room with the nurse and the tutor and all of everybody. I want to be there with them so badly. But the trick is you just have to approach it like you would a normal play. You can't think of it as anything different. And as long as you approach the text as you would anything else, you're going to be successful. You can't think of it as a Zoom play. It's the text of Medea. you know, just do it as you would as if it was a live play, and pretend your co-star is there with you. And that's the best you can do nowadays. And you'll be successful if you really just focus on the text.
So talk to us a little bit about your latest film, Bobcat Moretti, which is setting a cinematic record, by the way.
It is.
So what can you tell us about that film and what can fans expect?
Bobcat Moretti tells the story of like a very obese man who has MS, discovers at the beginning of the movie that he has MS, which I wrote in honor of my mother because my mother actually has MS.
Oh, wow.
And he discovers his late father's sport of boxing. And through boxing and through a very tough coach, he finds redemption. He finds inner peace. He finds forgiveness because he also has a very, very horrible family tragedy that he can't get over. So it's a very touching movie. It's also very exciting. And my character has to lose 100 pounds. So we filmed part 1 last year.
Wow.
And I've currently lost 88 pounds. And we're filming part 2 in July out in LA. And it also stars Vivica A. Fox and Taryn Manning.
Wow.
Louis Mastillo from Mike and Molly, and Matt Peters from Orange is the New Black, and Coolio is in it.
Yeah.
And it's Academy Award nominee Sally Kirkland. It's Sharia Irving. It's such an amazing cast. So I'm so lucky to be a part of it. And
wow.
It's just the toughest role I've ever played. It's kicking my butt, but I love it so much. And it's such a good movie. Part 1 came out so good, and I can't wait to film part 2.
That cast is absolutely stacked.
Yeah, it's amazing. So lucky.
And yeah, you mentioned that you've lost 88 pounds. Congratulations. That
Thank
is
you.
And also 100 pounds is, I just got to mention that, is the most that an actor has ever had to lose for a role in cinematic history.
It is true. Yes, that is 100% true.
That is amazing.
I've been told. I didn't think so, but then I've been told that Christian Bale holds the record at 60-something pounds.
Wow.
And
yeah.
Just I've already surpassed that. So
yeah,
it's really exciting, actually.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
And when can people expect to see this? Like, do we have a release date yet? Or are we still kind of?
Well, we're gonna do the festival circuit as soon as it's edited and done. We have an amazing editor who worked on Mad Max Fury Road. And so as soon as the editing of part 2 is done, we're going to get it out there on the film festival circuit. So I would say expect it in 2022.
Perfect. And where can people go to help out and support the movie online?
Well, you can find us all over the place on Instagram at Bobcat Moretti, or on Facebook or on Twitter, all Bobcat Moretti. We have so many fun things going on Instagram, especially I do workout challenges every week.
Yeah.
And we have trivia. And most importantly, we have a GoFundMe, which is going to help us spread the movie to theaters. And more importantly, spread awareness about MS. We're also donating money to MS Hope, which is an amazing charity. So if anyone watching can spare even $1, it would be amazing, or $1,000. It would be amazing. Or if you could just share it, our GoFundMe page, which is on our Instagram, it would mean so much to all of us. It's a really great cause, I think.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the film. And and the GoFundMe link will also be in the description here, so anyone can go and just click on that. Oh, definitely. So just before we move into our final wrap-up questions here, it seems like you seem to be drawn to these character-driven dramas.
I do, but yes, I love character-driven dramas. I love the drama. I feel like it's my wheelhouse, but I also love a good comedy. I mainly watch comedy when I'm watching things. It's very weird because I don't really write comedy. I do write it sometimes, but I mainly write drama. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Well, congratulations with everything. Yeah, it is for sure.
Thank you.
So just before we let you go here, Tim, I do want to ask you a couple quick my signature questions rather.
Okay.
So if you could go back in time and talk to a younger version of yourself, what kind of advice would you give?
I would say not to give up and that it's going to happen when it happens. To just hang in there and don't be discouraged.
Nice. I like that one. And on a final note, what does success mean to you? How would you define it?
Success is a funny word. I'm not even sure if I'm there yet. I think success is what you make of it. If you feel proud of the work you do, and if you're passionate about the work you do, no matter what business you're in, then you're successful.
Inspirational words of wisdom from the one and only Tim Realbuto.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being on the show, and looking forward to everything that you've got coming your way in the future, man.
Well, it was my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
During COVID-19, during the pandemic, there was a lot of chaos going on. And we thought, what could we do throughout this period of time where instead of focusing on these problems, we could think of an opportunity.
My name is Matthew Evanson. I am co-founder and head coach at F.I.T Performance.
My name is Manana Bijue. I'm 21 years old, and I am the co-founder and head coach here at F.I.T Performance.
We initially met on our first day at fitness and health promotion at Durham College. Throughout that, we started to study together a little bit more, and we really noticed that we had a really good work a work connection. We could work well together.
So we started brainstorming. You know, Matthew and myself would hop on calls every day, trying to think, create an idea. What can we do to really make an impact that can also change people's lives? And that's when we decided to come up with F.I.T Performance, which is now our company that we are very proud and very happy to bring to you guys. Our company offers personalized, tailored workout programs specific to your body that are safe, efficient, effective, and enjoyable.
We also have our training insights, which dive into the science behind some of our movements and what's happening exactly to your body when you're working out, when you're doing these types of things.
There you go, come on! Squeeze that back, come on! Come on, Matthew!
What sets us apart is our focus on lifestyle and mindset and training insights. We believe that focusing more on health as a holistic view and overall, physical and the mental aspect of things, focusing on overall wellness, we think not only provides you with more information and knowledge, but it helps with a better transformation and an overall healthy lifestyle. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you're interested on taking the first step to an everlasting journey of growth, physically, mentally, and emotionally,
feel free to reach out to us on our social media. We'll link our information at the end of the video, and we'd be more than happy to help you set and achieve your health and fitness goals by leveraging our functional improvement techniques. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, and we hope to connect with you soon. Take care.